Hello everyone and welcome to Parsha with Passion, Parshas Yisro. Winter is coming to an end and I am just discovering the joys of a winter coat. As you can see, for about, my whole life I hated coats, only jackets, completely inappropriately dressed for the weather. Jackets, sweatshirts, whatever lets me move more. And then one day this big fluffy winter coat just arrived in my closet. I really have no idea who it's from, and thank you, whoever you are. And it just arrived, and I put it on. Maybe a friend gave it to me, I really don't know. A hand-me-down, and it's like wearing a blanket, and now I feel like I understand something I never understood before. Coats actually keep you warm. I literally didn't know that. I always thought coats are so clumsy and fluffy and you can't move anywhere and you can't get in your car comfortably. How does anyone wear a coat? But I am reborn. So I'm reminded once again that you can't really learn things until you're ready to learn them. You have to be ready. So apparently I'm ready, and now it's almost spring and I cannot wait, and it's not even so cold out here, but I'm very cozy in my winter coat. So Parshas Yisro actually starts with a little bit of this message, the message of listening to the messages. And our topic for today is raising kids and giving the right messages to kids and the right messages to ourselves while we're raising our kids, okay? Because Hashem opens up by telling Moshe, this is what you should say to the Jewish people before the giving of the Torah. This and not a single word more. Don't say any more words. Only say these words. So this is the core introduction. And within that core introduction, Hashem says that, remember that I am Hashem who took you out of Egypt, who lifted you up on wings of eagles. And now listen to my voice. And you will be to me an Am Segula, a treasured nation. And there's so much just in those words. And it's fantastic because it doesn't say, and now do my mitzvos and you will be for me a treasured nation. It literally says, listen to my voice. So I'm going to start by telling you a story. And this story was told to me by my brother Ben Sion at my brother Gabriel's yard site. So there was a guy that my brother was working with, that Ben Sion was working with, and he was tough. And he had been in gangs, and he was as far away from Jewish observance as you could imagine, and he was bitter, and he was just very, very, very far away from himself, you might say. And my brother asked him, so what's your story? What is your story? And he said, well, when I was younger, I was a pretty okay kid, and I was a religious kid, and my mother got sick, and she got sicker and sicker, and she passed away. And I was very lonely and really was having a very, very hard time in school. And I ended up connecting up with a group of kids who were not great kids. So I wasn't really a bad kid. I was just lonely and on the fringes and found myself with them. And one day they threw a rock at a guy's car and the alarm went off. And the guy whose car it was actually came running out, yelling and screaming, and all the boys ran away. And the only one that was left was me. So this guy, he started yelling at me, you crazy vandal, what kind of kid are you? How dare you do this? You're throwing a rock at my car. You think you're going to get away with this? You will not get away with this. You come with me. I'm calling your father. I'm calling the police. This is not acceptable. And he said I stood there while he called the police, and he made me give him my father's number. And the police came, and they took a report, and my father came, and he took me home, and I was in trouble. My father was terribly disappointed. He actually didn't even know what to do with me. And there I was, and I was punished, and I didn't even know what to think. all of a sudden I went from being just kind of an average kid to being a horrible person. And so I started doing horrible things. After a little while, I even stopped going to school, and I started being on the streets, and I just knew, like, you know, I do horrible things. And I started to get more depressed and less interested in life. And one day, I was hanging out at a pizza shop, and this guy came over to me, and he started talking to me, and he said nice things, and he made me feel comfortable. And I don't know, something sparked in my heart, and I just felt good with him. And so first he began casually meeting me at the pizza shop, and gradually I spent more and more time with him, and I started to trust him. And he said to me, you know, there's a camp, and this camp is so much fun, and it's so uplifting, and I know that you would love it there. You would be so happy there. Would you want to go there? Would you want to get away from the city and spend a little time in the country in camp, this beautiful Jewish camp? And I got really excited and really scared. And he said, don't worry about the money. I'll take care of the money. Do you need me to speak to your father? And I said, yes, thank you. And I was so nervous, like, could this possibly work out? And I didn't even know what to think of myself. I hadn't been in a Jewish institution for such a long time, but the idea of going to camp just felt, I don't know, felt like a chance to start again. So this young man went and he spoke to my father. My father gave me permission. And that began the greatest summer of my life. I went to camp, and it was a fresh start. And my heart opened, and I began to heal. And I started to remember the kid who I was. And I started to remember that I'm a nice guy, and that I have a soft heart. I like inspiration. And I started to have fun again, and to relax, and to heal from my mother's passing. And when I came back from camp, I was a new person. Well, some guys saw me, and they saw that I was just new. They saw that I was available. I was open now. And they said to me, hey, we're having a barbecue. Do you want to come? And I was very scared because I hadn't had friends in such a long time. In camp I had friends, but back home I didn't have any friends. And here I was going to go and try to remake these old friendships and stay with the right crowd. And I was very, very nervous. But these particular boys, they looked like they'd grown up a bit, and they were nice kids, and there were some new kids in the group. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. And I remember getting dressed for this barbecue. I was so nervous. I was trying to wear the right thing and practicing different postures. And I wanted to be the kid that I was in camp, but it was so hard to be that kid back home. And I was just going to really give it a try. So my friends picked me up. We went to the barbecue. It was in the backyard of someone's house, and I was having the time of my life. And I was in a completely new space, and I just felt so grateful. Like, this is good. I'm having fun. This can work. It could last. And we needed the drinks refilled, so I went inside of the house, and I went to the kitchen. And guess who was the host? The man whose car I smashed. And he saw me, and he said, what are you doing on my property? You think you can just come back here, waltz your way back in without an apology? I remember you. I never forget kids like you. I never forget kids like you. Get out of here. You don't belong here. What do you think? You just come to my house, have my barbecue, have my house, be in my kitchen? No. And I ran out of there so fast, and I never looked back. That was the end for me. I got on the streets, I got into mischief, I started to make trouble, I joined a gang, and that's me today. And hopefully that's not where the story ends, because he met my brother, so all things are possible now. All things are always possible. But that is the absolutely heartbreaking story of what a few words can do, of what it means to tell someone that you know who they are. And that's why at the beginning of Parshas Yisro, Hashem says to me, to us, and to me, you will be for me an Am Segula, a treasured nation. He's uplifting us. He's letting us know it says that what's the greatest musar, the greatest rebuke that you can give to a Jew, the greatest rebuke, the one that hits the heart the most, is when you say to him, listen, you're the son of a king. Don't degrade yourself like this. Don't do that. Or in Yiddish, they'd like to say, is passt nicht. Like, this is not for you. You're so much better than this. You are the son or the daughter of a king. Our words let other people know who they are. And so Hashem tells us, B'ni B'chori Yisrael, you are my eldest. I treasure you. I hold you. I bring you dear to me. You're important to me. You are a nation that is holy. When we are raising kids, we're going to make a lot of mistakes, okay? If you're a yeller, you're making a mistake yelling. If you're an irresponsible parent, you're making a mistake being irresponsible. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, even if you're a perfect, so to speak, parent. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. But here's a mistake that we should never, ever make. We should never make the mistake of thinking that our children are anything less than incredible, awesome, magnificent souls. Magnificent, perfect creations of Hashem. And we should never make the mistake of forgetting to tell them that. That is the gift that you will give to your child from the day that he's born. Other things you might get right or wrong. You might serve him junk food. It's going to be okay. Your job from when your child is born is to let them know you are special, you are worthy, you are magnificent, you are holy. You are holy. You have holiness inside of you. And letting a child know that is what makes all the difference, because every person has their own journey that they're going to go on in this world. Your child is going to have best friends and worst friends and good crowds and bad crowds and good teachers and bad teachers. Your child is going to have, it can have the whole gamut of childhood, especially kids today. Your child can have depression, they can have anxiety, they can have ADD, they can have bipolar, they can have just a number of traumas, and that's the gullus that we're in. And what's going to get them out of it? What's going to sustain them? What's going to help them to hold on? What's going to help them to find themselves is if you let them know, through good times and bad, who their self really is. I remember sitting at a Pesach Seder in South Africa, and we have this little custom that we picked up somewhere, and it goes like this. So at the Seder table, there is the Kos Shel Eliyahu, the cup of Elijah. It's a cup that's filled with wine in the middle of the table. And the way that we start our Seder is that we say, this is the Kos Shel Eliyahu. Eliyahu is the one who will bring Mashiach. What will you do to bring Mashiach? And we all pass the cup around. It starts out empty, and each person pours a little bit of wine into it. A little bit of what will I do to bring Mashiach? A little bit. And there was this one kid at the table, completely suffering from all kinds of depression and not keeping mitzvos at that time. And when it came time for their turn, they said, I will not use my iPad on Pesach for the whole of Pesach. That's a holy soul. That's a holy soul. A holy soul who will humbly admit that they know better, who will courageously commit to something that is very, very hard for them, probably a crutch for them. When things get overwhelming, probably an escape. I will not use my iPad the whole Pesach. What do we sometimes do? We look at kids and we say, here's all the things that you're not doing right. You're using your iPad on Shabbos. You're doing all kinds of things wrong. And we can make, God forbid, the colossal mistake of reducing a kid down to their mistakes or to their processes, instead of seeing their greatness. One of my most, my early endearing moments on this topic before my kids got a little older was when my nephew came over with a bunch of drunk guys on Purim night. And this kid was way too young to be drunk, and he was not saying like very nice things, and he was laying on my couch. He must have been 15 or something. It was crazy. And he was just so drunk that he was sick. So someone said, hey, you want a cup of water? And he said, yeah, man. So the guy gave him a cup of water, and he said, he was so drunk. Before that, he had been talking so inappropriately, and this blessing came out of his mouth, and it was just the most beautiful thing. And that's the core of a person. That's the core of all of us. You know, I remember when I think I've mentioned this numerous times. Come move to Baltimore. If you're not moving to Israel, move to Baltimore. We have a number of very spiritual, talented healers in this community, chiropractors, acupuncturists, just incredible people who work on themselves, who are, you know, just Ovdei Hashem, and who really understand energy. I mean, they're just very, very special, intuitive people who do very good healing work. So I came into this particular chiropractor, Dr. Chana Feldman over here, and she said to me, you are carrying a load. This must have been around 10 years ago. What was this load? This load was the story and the image that I had of myself as a bad kid, as a bad person. Every time anything good happened to me, or anytime someone would give me a compliment, I'd be like, you don't know the half of it. You don't know. In my head, in my heart, you don't know. I mean, I'm looking pretty good now, but you should see where I come from. You know, you should see the kind of trouble that I caused. And this would just go on like a cycle in my brain. And it was draining energy, this identifying through all my own mistakes. The way that we need to look at ourselves is that we are also magnificent souls. I think I mentioned this once before on this class, that it said that a tzaddik is a gardener. The tzaddik, why do you feel so special with a tzaddik? Because when he looks at you, he's plucking the most gorgeous rose and bringing it together in a bouquet to Hashem. He's seeing in you, the righteous man, the righteous person is seeing in you your most beautiful part, your perfection. And that's what they see. That's all they see, is the kernel of perfection that is within you. So in this, in the beginning of this parsha, there's a few things that were said. One of them is that you will be for me an Am Segula, a treasured nation. This was a prerequisite to getting the Torah. You have to know. You have to know, if you're going to try to keep the Torah, you're going to try to be my servants, you are exalted. You are beautiful. You are treasured. You are dear to me. That's the prerequisite for getting the Torah, is that you know what our relationship is about. Same thing with parents and kids. The prerequisite for being a good parent is that you give your children the message that they are dear, precious, and perfect no matter where they are. Some of the best parents that I know, their kids have been to the other side and back. And when you hear these parents talk about their children who are going through such difficult things with so much love, you witness godliness. You hear it. And it's not about acceptance, and it's not about your own heartbreak. It's about holding the torch high. I'm holding this torch high that I see who you really are. And another thing, because this is a very important message to me, another thing that I probably mentioned here before is that I'll never forget a teacher named Mrs. Kaplowitz. So there I was in high school doing crazy things, really sleeping through school, and, you know, just generally really not getting anything that people were trying to give to me. And I was sitting there in the library, a school library, and Mrs. Kaplowitz, she came over to me and she said, Rivka Malka, they say all kinds of things about you, but I know that you are a good girl. I know I said this before here. You see, it's still alive in me. It still made all the difference. So the first point of this class is to take a look in the mirror Take a look in the mirror and see yourself and know that you are chaviv, you are beloved, you are special, you are perfection, you are exalted, you are holy. And no matter what you've done in your life, nothing is taking that away. Nothing is changing that. If you're not living up to your life in the way that you want to be, so you're in process, so you'll continue, so you'll begin again now. Or I bet you have begun and you're working on yourself. And the second thing is to look at your children and to tell them, to make a habit of telling them, no matter what they do, and especially when they're doing something wrong, I know you did this thing wrong, but I know that you're great. I know that you're a leader. I know that you're holy. Kiss them, hug them, squish them up, and tell them, you are so holy. You are such a blessing. I learned so much from you. Squish them tight and tell them you're a leader. Look at what you're going through and look what that's going to make you be. Only people who struggle become magnificent. You know, I work with women all the time, and here's what I found, and this is just the facts. The people who struggle when they're younger, the people who go through hard times when they're younger, they have it much better when they're older. They have much more tools. They have much more self-awareness. Life does not hit them by surprise. They do a lot better. The people who pretty much had it easy and things were going good, they get knocked over the head when they're 18, 20, 25, and the drama hits. Because Hashem always wants to grow us. So if you're lucky, He'll grow you when you're young, and otherwise, He'll grow you when you're older. And for some of the really, really lucky ones, you get to be grown multiple times. But having troubled times when you're a kid, this is not necessarily a bad thing. I used to think it was. I don't think so anymore. You know what? These kids, they have a head start. They have a head start in life. They're doing their hard work now. I just sat together with my husband, and we had the absolute privilege of watching two young people find forgiveness with each other. Again, I mentioned the PIES model, very special model of communication, where you know it's just so beautiful that you can literally moderate something safely and with healing without holding back. It's incredible. And you know, I saw these kids be able to say things that I myself as an adult struggle to say. Things like, I forgive you. Things like, I'll just need a little more time. Things like, I'm glad that we're speaking now because in the past I would have been defensive and said that it was all your fault. Young kids saying this. These kids, they've gone through hard times. They're evolved. It's incredible. So just to drive this point home, I know I just said it. I just feel like I must say it again. Don't stop hugging your kids and telling them how amazing they are. Don't stop. And especially when what they're doing doesn't look amazing. And especially when they're completely rejecting you. Your job is to be godly, to believe in them, to hold the space for their magnificence, to not stop telling them, wow, this is hard for you. You're going to do amazing things. Just keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop. Let that message be the one that they know by heart, inside and out, and squish it into them. Hug it into them. And if they don't let you hug them, you know what? Tell it to them even if they don't want to hear it. I have a son who, whatever I say to him, all the nice things I say to him, he's like, but you're my mother, so you're going to say that. And I'm like, check, good. He's immune to my positive messages. That's good. That's a good thing that he thinks that that's what he's always going to hear from me. And then I try not to make the mistake of stopping saying it just because he's like, doesn't matter that you're saying that. You know, just keep at it. Be that voice. Mothers and fathers both. Okay, I think you got what I'm trying to say. I know I'm really pushing it, but like, you know, raising children is really raising yourself. That's the point of it. It says that children, the curse from Adam and Eve is that it's tsar gidol banim. The pain of raising children, that is what one of Eve's curses was. But I cannot remember who I heard this from. He says, Tsar Gidol, what is the pain of Gidol means greatness or growth. So what is the pain of growth? Banim, children. And another way of interpreting it is, Tsar Gidol, what is the pain that is, what is the pain, I'm sorry, what is the great pain, the greatness? I'm mixing it up in my head in Hebrew and English, just forget what I'm saying right now, but you'll get the point, is children. Essentially, the pain of raising children makes you great. That's what brings out your greatness. When you look at your child and you say, I see you're holy, you're also saying to yourself, I see I'm holy despite my mistakes, and despite that I'm still fumbling, and despite that things aren't exactly the way that I want them to be. The things that happen to our children are a chance for us to be metaken, to fix not only our childhoods and the mistakes that our parents made, all parents make mistakes, but ourselves, to heal ourselves. And we don't use our children to heal ourselves, but when we are faced with the hard times with our kids, that specifically is the opportunity to do it right, to really get it right. I remember knowing, because I had a lot of obnoxious times as a young person, a lot. I remember knowing very clearly when I raised my kids, it's just like one of these young epiphanies where you feel very brilliant, and it's probably common sense, but to me it was like revelation. Revelation. When your child is obnoxious is when they're the most needy for love. When your child is obnoxious is when they're the most needy for love. When they are the most unlovable, the most rejecting is when they are the most needy for love. Once upon a time when I was a young parent, I really wanted to toe a very hard line with certain things. And, if a child was chutzpahdik, that means insolent, I would come down pretty hard. I would be very, very clear, this is not allowed. And I still am very clear, but the other day something happened, or it was yesterday, that made me think that I wonder if I have changed, or I wonder if times have changed. So I'm just going to tell you the story, and I guess you'll tell me what you think. So, one of my kids got a bad grade on a test, and because of that, they were not able to go on a school trip. Now, don't get me started on that. The punitive response to learning is horrific, disgusting. It strips kids of their wanting to learn, and it makes competition in class, and it fosters bad feelings. And I think especially these trips are usually enriching trips. I think that that's the worst thing you could do to a child, and I will be calling the principal. But I didn't tell the kid that just then. He was just incredibly sad and embarrassed to be the one to not go on the trip because he got a few points too low on a test. And the truth of the matter is that he didn't study for the test, and the truth of the matter is that he is not a big studier and wasn't caring very much about it and was hoping to coast by. So there is something here that he needs to learn. So I said to him, you didn't really study for that test. He got so angry at me. He threw his coat on the floor. He got very angry. He said, I didn't study for the test. And I didn't study for this. And then he slammed his coat on the floor and he ran out of the room. And the old me would have said, come back here, pick up your coat, and apologize. And there are times when I'll still do that. But in that moment, I didn't do that. I just let the kid go, work off his steam. And when he came back, he started talking again. And I said to him, this was my face. I was like, we can't really talk now. And he was like, why? I said, you were very chutzpahdik to me. He's like, what? I said, And I was laughing. I'm like, you threw down your coat. Then you screamed at your mother. Then you ran out of the room. So we can't really talk now, or you could apologize, but I'm not sure you want to be having this conversation right now, because, you were really chutzpahdik. And he felt the love, and he melted, and he kind of admitted that he didn't study, and I guess we'll see what happens. Does the school win, or do Rivka Malka's ideals win? Or maybe it won't have to be a fight. Occasionally I'm able to bring the principles over to my way of thinking, which is let's build the child instead of making ways for them to lose. But okay, maybe. I'll have to let you know on that one. Or if I don't let you know and you're very curious, you can always ask me. I don't know, maybe I've grown up, or maybe just the world is different, and just calling a child in a harsh way, like, you did this and that, it's just really not working so well anymore. And there's also an idea that I heard from Rabbi Brizek, that our children today are very close to Mashiach's times. They are more related to the truth than we are. They have a deeper relationship to the truth than we do, and that's why they have such a low tolerance for hypocrisy. That's why they're not scared to challenge authority. They can see through us. And I think that when you tell a child today, you're not okay in any way, their soul rebels. They're not going to put up with that. That's not going to be a message that they could hear. In a different era, they could hear that. We can't hear that today, because guess what? It's not true. The soul recognizes it's not true. You can't condemn me. I'm not a bad person. I'm a good person. Okay, I think you got that point. I think that's going to end up being the main point of this, and I want to end with one more point that so beautiful, that Hashem, in this conversation with us, in the introduction to the Torah, the other prerequisite for receiving the Torah is when he says, Im shamoa tishma'u bekoli, if you listen to my voice. And it doesn't say, if you listen to my mitzvos. So how do we understand this? Im shamoa tishma'u bekoli means, there's two interpretations, I just want to see them both. If you listen to my voice means that the essence of a servant of Hashem, the essence of a Jew, is that at all times we have to ask ourselves, what does Hashem want from me? At the times when your kids are mad, at the times when your kids aren't doing well, what does Hashem want from me? That's always the question, what does Hashem want from me? And the second interpretation of if you listen to my voice is, if you listen to my voice, that everything is Hashem speaking. The Baal Shem Tov says, if there's a wagon driver and you drop something, and the wagon driver says to the guy, hey, can you pick that up? It dropped. And the guy says, oh, I can't pick it up. So the wagon driver answers him, you can, you just don't want to. That's his example that he gives. In that, hear Hashem speaking to you. It might look like the wagon driver, but it's really God saying to you, you can't. You can. You just don't want to. How about that message? How about that message? Yesterday, I took my daughter to an acupuncturist over here. There's a really good acupuncturist. I told you, I might sound a little quacky, but there's so much good healing out there. Just access as much of it as you can. So in Baltimore, there's this healing center that is for students. So it's great. You get a great price, half price, and they're very, very skilled. They're already interning. So anyway, there I am sitting in this acupuncturist office. Brought my daughter there, and there's a conversation going on with two people at the front desk. And this guy is talking about, I guess, a woman that he was interested in who's not interested in him. And he says, I prayed about it, and I've done everything I can. I expressed my feelings to her. She just doesn't want me, and I know we're perfect together, and my heart is drawn to her, and she must be for me. And the woman at the desk says to him, you've prayed to the Lord about it, you've fasted about it. There's nothing left to do but to just keep praying that when it's in the Lord's time, then it will happen. Now, the Lord is not our language, it's more of a Christian language. And it was kind of fun to hear the same message in a different language, and it was fun to hear Hashem's voice that says, you could daven about something, you could pray about something, and it's got to be in His time, and whatever His time is going to be the perfect time. And He's like, yep, that's all we could do. We can't force things. Things have to be in their time. And I'm like, yes, there's the message. There is the message. Sometimes you go through phases, especially when you're in really hard times, where you see messages all around you. You're not crazy. Those really are messages. Hashem is always speaking to us in whispers and in voices and in messages. I think of it like life is a maze or something, and all the time we're getting clues of how to get through it. So don't ignore the clues. Don't just keep saying, I'm in the maze, what should I do next? I'm not sure. No, listen to the messages, be open to the messages, and incredible messages will come your way, because everything is really Hashem's voice, and this is the prerequisite for getting the Torah. And the last part about that is make sure that it's Hashem's voice. We spoke about this another time. Make sure that it's Hashem's voice. Make sure that it's not the voice of the Yetzer Hara, because how do you know the difference? Hashem's message is always a loving message. Always. 100% of the time, a loving message. Even if the message is, you need to correct this and you need to work on this because I want you to be closer to me. If you hear, I do bad things, therefore bad things happen to me, that's not a godly message. No. You can call yourself out on the things that you need to improve on. You can. But make sure it's God's voice speaking. God's voice sounds something like this. Remember, you're the child of a king, and I know you don't want to degrade yourself like that, and I believe in you, and I know you can do better, and I know this thing that you're working on, you're going to succeed in it because you're an Am Segula. You're Mamlechas Kohanim. You are so special. You can do this, and I'll be right here. I'll be cheering you on. I'll be watching you because you were made for this. You weren't made to be anything less than great. I see greatness in you. I placed the neshama tahora inside of you. Pardon me, a neshama tahora inside of you. I placed purity in you. I know you can overcome this, and you get a chance to start fresh every day with Moda'ani. And at night when you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, you get to remember that all the good and the bad, even all your mistakes, it's all part of Hashem Echad. It's all part of Hashem's oneness. It's going to be okay. You're going to start again tomorrow. These are godly messages. If you hear anything that wants to break you or tell you that you're stupid, you're lazy, you're mean, you're annoying, you're just a horrible manovel, that's not God. That's not God. That's the voice of the Yetzer Hara that makes you want to stay stuck, feeling like you are a nothing instead of feeling like you are part of the treasured nation. So as we come to accept the Torah right now, remember that you are part of a treasured nation. Everyone, every person on this planet has a piece of God living inside of them, has a precious soul. That's the core of who you are. Connect with that soul and with that soul's longings. Be open to hearing Hashem's voice. Take my advice and spend time in nature where you can hear His voice even more clearly without distractions. Like it says by Rosh Hashanah, Hashem is in the fields. Yes, Hashem is in the fields. Go out to your grass. Have a beautiful Shabbos. Have a beautiful Parshas Yisro. Take care. Bye-bye.